Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Palace fans throughout the world. Welcome back to another edition of the Red and Blue Review with me, Ian Noble, hosting again this evening. We're back, of course, from the international break, which has not been at all kind to our football club. Welcome along, as I say. It's really good to see people joining us in the chat. Joining me this evening on the show, we have, a staple on the show now is Mr. Fergus Teague. Good evening, Fergus. How are you?
Evening, Ian. Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to covering the game today. Plenty to talk about.
Excellent. Yeah, you are our lead on the game, and we look forward to everything you have to say on that. And there's no shortage of talking points, of course. And back for the first time this season, we have, from the second bedroom on the left, the lovely Lucie Usher. How are you, Lucie?
I'm very well. Thank you very much, Ian. It's a pleasure to be back. Appreciate the time.
It's great to have you with us, Lucie. It really is. And you're going to be keeping an eye on the chat, making sure that we cover off everyone's comments. We have the echo back. Jim. I'm not sure why. Good evening, Jim Cannon.
Good evening. You all right?
Yeah, we are, but the echo is back. So I'm going to ask you to drop out again. Come back like you did in the pre-show.
That's the second time you've sent me off.
Send him off. Red card for Jim Cannon, everybody. Now, during the pre-show, we meet half an hour pre-show just to check that everything's working technically okay. And Jim did have an echo, and then he came back in again, and he was fine. And as soon as we go live, we get the echo back. So hopefully Nigel, our producer guy, is going to be able to fix that somehow and make sure that when he does come back, it's nice and clear. I think, Nigel, if the echo is there, we're going to have to drop Jim off because we can't hear what anyone else is saying, and you guys won't enjoy the show that way. Hopefully he'll be with us back very, very shortly. First thing, before we get into the game tonight, I want to say from everyone on the Red and Blue Review, a speedy recovery, of course, to the one and only Roy Hodgson. Absent from the dugout yesterday at Villa Park. Roy was taken ill on the morning of the game. He travelled with the squad to the Midlands, but shortly after breakfast, before the pre-match meal, he was taken ill. But in the post-match presser that Paddy McCarthy did, we know that he's making a good recovery. So hopefully he'll be back on that training pitch before we know it with the team as they prepare for the next game during this coming week. So it was a tough one to take yesterday, wasn't it, guys? It really was, without question. I was up at Villa Park yesterday. And I just want to tell you this little story. I'm travelling back, okay, and we had a pretty horrendous journey back in some ways and good in others. I'll spare you the details of the journey, but it took me a full 6 hours to get from Villa Park back home to Sussex. And as I get off the train at Hayward Heath Station, this guy that works for British Rail or Southern, whatever they're called these days, he said to me, "What happened? What happened?" And I thought initially he was a Brighton fan taking the mick. So I said to him, "Well, we lost 3-1, mate." And then he said, "What happened?" He said, "I'm a Villa fan," he said, and I'm a bit embarrassed. So I had to explain to him that the penalty was given, and in my opinion, it shouldn't have been given. And he said to me, "I feel like I should apologise to you. Can I apologise on behalf of Aston Villa Football Club for stealing a point off you?" And I thought, well, do you know what? There are some decent Villa fans out there after all. So I said, apology accepted when I'm away and got home about 11 o'clock. Jim, you're back with us. Can you speak?
Yes, I can. That's still an echo?
No, you're back with us, and that is much better. Don't touch anything, all right?
I'm not touching anything.
Well,
nothing.
That's fine.
My hands are here, look.
So, good evening, Jim. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to be back.
It's nice to have you back, Jim. Record 660 appearances, of course, for Crystal Palace Football Club between 1973 and 1988. Never to be beaten, I'm sure. Jim, it's an honour for us to have you with us this evening and supporting the Red and Blue Review. And we're really looking forward to what you've got to say later on in the show. So, what else was I going to do? Oh, yes. Before we get into the game, one thing that was announced this week was the squad of players, the Premier League squad. And Nigel's got a slide for us here. Here's the squad of players. As you can see there, it says 25 squad players. Now, if you're quick, you can count those names, and there are only 22 of them on that list. The youngsters, of course, aren't listed, so Raksaki isn't listed. But that just proves the point, I think, how paper thin our squad is. And of course, we have a number of injuries at the moment. Of those 22, of course, 3 are goalkeepers and only 19 are outfield players that can be used in the Premier League. So that gives us a little segue into the game itself. We're going to talk about lots of things this evening. But I want to talk about the game first because, of course, it's fresh in the mind and there's lots to talk about of what went on at Villa Park yesterday. So let's have a look at the team. 2 enforced changes from the previous Premier League fixture. We had at the back, we had Chris Richards coming in for the injured Mark Gahey. We saw Mark go off for England in the game against Scotland at half time, and we were keeping our fingers crossed that it was nothing significant. And he has got a bit of a problem, so he didn't play yesterday. Chris Richards, of course, played for the USA and had a couple of games. So he's been travelling as well this last week. And the other casualty of the international calendar was Colombia's Jefferson Lerma, who's been a brilliant addition to the squad, played really well in the first 4 games. So we thought we're going to miss him, but back from injury. Remember, Hughes got injured on the Tour of America. He was back and he filled the role as the dual, the twin number 6 with Doucouré in the middle of the park yesterday. So the 2 enforced changes. And I have to say, I actually called that on Friday. So I was quite pleased with myself in that respect. I picked the same team as Roy picked. So Fergus, without further ado, let's get into the game. Let's talk about what happened yesterday. You watched the full 100+ minutes of the action at Villa Park yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, team selection. You okay with that? What did you think?
I kind of agree with you. I probably called the same. I think Richards had to come in. He played 2 international games. He was obviously match fit. I don't think Holden's played much football, so that was a natural fit. And Hughes, he's a great replacement for Lerma. I thought he had a great game yesterday. Hughesy, fantastic game. He works well with Doucouré as well, so it's kind of like a natural fit. So I was happy with the team. We're obviously going to miss Mark Gee, and we're always going to miss Jeffrey Lerma, but decent, a strong side. I know you were saying our squad's weak.
So, Ferg, I'm sorry to cut across you. So you said that Hughes had a good game. What did you think of Richards' game yesterday?
I thought he had a great game, cracking game, and I thought he was very, very unlucky. I know we're going to get onto the penalty, but I thought he was superb. I think the first 5-10 minutes, him and Anderson were settling down because they've obviously not played together much. But no, I thought he was outstanding. Felt very sorry for all of them to be on the losing side, but especially Richards and what went down in the second half.
Sure. Okay, so the game itself then.
Let's
have a talk about that, and I'll bring Lucie and Jimmy. If you want to come in, guys, just let me know.
Yeah, it's just some context around it. I think Villa were unbeaten in 8 games at Villa Park, so we're always up against it anyway. And I think our last victory at Villa Park was 2013 when Dwight Gale scored Boxing Day in the last minute. So it was always going to be a challenging game. And the way the game started, Villa had a lot of possession. I think I know McCarthy was on the phone to Hodgson, wasn't he? He kept putting his earpiece in. You could see what he was doing. So there was obviously a game plan there. And we were just trying to keep them quiet, maybe for the first 15, 20 minutes. But on 18 minutes, Wardy, and he didn't have the best of games yesterday, I've got to say, made a few mistakes and missed an absolute sitter. But Anderson's passed the ball out and he passed it back, but he passed it straight to Ollie Watkins. So he was clean through on goal, outside of the foot, tried to bend it around Johnston, but fantastic save by Johnson. It came out to who was it out on the wing? Cash.
Cash, yeah. He had a lot of space on that right side, Matt Cash, in the first half, yeah.
He did, yeah. And he's crossed it, Richards cleared it, and then it was headed back down, and then Cash again, and then Richards, I don't know how he managed not putting it in his own goal, but he didn't. It was the right side of the post for us, luckily.
Okay. Let me just come in there, Ferg, if I may. I want to just ask Jim this question: how difficult would it have been for Chris Richards to come in and play alongside a centre back partner in a game of that magnitude yesterday? Do you think, Jim?
Well, not difficult. The only difference is he's probably not played a lot of Premiership games. But as you've just alluded to, he's just come back from 2 international games. So as far as match fitness is concerned, I don't think it was a problem. He trains every day with the lads. So what I've seen of him, certainly more so beginning of last season when he sort of played a few games early on, he looks a very accomplished centre-half. So I can't see any problem him coming in replacing either Anderson or Gay at any time.
And you were a centre half yourself, and you played a few games at left back as well. I mean, not necessarily for now, guys, but let's maybe come back to this later on. Is there an argument, because everyone in the chat is saying what a good game Richards had as well, and totally agree with that. Is there an argument that we have to find a way to get Chris Richards into our starting 11 where Mark Gahey is fit as well to come back alongside Anderson? Rhetorical at the moment, but maybe just park that for now, and we'll come back to that. Lucie, anything in the chat that we need to know about?
There's lots of support for Richards. Nick Philpott, hello Nick, thought Richards was man of the match yesterday. George, he fitted in naturally. Also, we've had sort of some earlier comments, sort of just in support, and just I think a reassuring display by Richards. Really, I was a little bit sort of cold about him coming into the squad. However, really impressed, just really assured, and it kind of makes me laugh because I kind of think, oh, is this going to be like awful? Is this a really sort of imposition for him? And then sort of Jim says, no, it should be really easy. He's a professional. So shows you what I know, really.
Yeah, and a few people are saying now 3 at the back. So maybe there's a thought about that. But anyway, back to you, Ferg.
Yeah. So the next significant thing in the first half was obviously Jordan Ayew going down injured. I think he tried to carry on, but it looked like a dead leg. So hopefully it's nothing too serious. But he went off the 25th minute, and obviously Mateta came on for him. So Mateta and Edward will obviously get onto that, but they seem to be creating a really decent partnership, the two of them. So the 34th minute, Villa thought they went 1-0 up. It was a fantastic through ball, and Diaby, his first touch was superb. Curled it in past Johnson. You're thinking the worst, 1-0, and then all of a sudden VAR comes into play, and you're like, fingers crossed. And it wasn't much, but he was offside, so goal doesn't stand. So I think we all probably breathed a sigh of relief then.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? I called it in the ground. I said to people around me, I said, that looked off to me. It looked off. This isn't going to stand. And of course, they're celebrating madly. I think it was one of the few things that Richards got caught out with yesterday, because the ball went, I think, go over his head or past it. I can't remember quite. But Richards was supposed to be marking him, and it just caught him out, But I don't think it was anything much to do with Richards being particularly badly positioned. I think it was just a very good ball and a very good finish. But you're right, he was off.
Yeah.
VAR did its job, didn't it? VAR did its job there, do you think?
It did, but it's more straightforward, isn't it? Offside, they can draw lines, and it's not subjective. It's black and white, really, isn't it? With the offside decisions, whereas, and we'll get onto it, the penalties, it's a little bit more subjective. A couple of more things. So Cash, and he was quite influential in the game, actually. Cash, he was playing quite well down that right hand side. He fizzed the ball across the box, and luckily Watkins wasn't on the other end of it. He just missed it. It went right across the face of the goal. And then towards the end of the first half, again, Cash is involved twice. So I think it's Danilo. He beats Ward down that left-hand side.
Nutmegged him, didn't he? I think
he did, yeah. And then he's cut in, then he's pulled the ball back. And Matty Cash is probably 8-10 yards out, and he just takes a swing at it. and unfortunately for us, he miskicks it, and it goes behind him. But then Villa get the ball back, and it goes back out to Digne, and he crosses the ball in, and there he is again, Cash coming in from the back post, free header, heads it straight over the bar. So a couple of really good chances for Villa, and actually, half time comes round, and you're thinking, yeah, we're quite fortunate to be going in 0-0, and we know we're a second half team, so you're obviously hoping for the best.
Yeah. Interesting stat, isn't there, that we haven't yet scored a goal in the first half this season, not in any game. That's 5 Premier League games in a League Cup tie. We have not scored in the first half. Is that a worry, Jim, for the lads? Are they going to be? Does that play on their mind at all?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they've been doing okay. I'd rather score a winning goal in the last minute than score one goal in the first minute, because then your attitude is like, hold on to that, don't give it away, especially in the Premiership. So, no, I don't think it'd be nice to get 2 or 3 goals in the first half, but I don't think it's something they worry about. Going in at half time is no different from the kickoff, is it? It's still the same score, and you've got 45 minutes to try and score.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I'll be interested to know if there's anyone out there that can tell us whether there are many other teams that haven't scored a first half goal in the Premier League. Somebody will know. Paul Bristow will know. He'll find that out and tell us in the chat shortly, I'm sure. Good. So we get to half time 0-0, Fergus, and breathe a sigh of relief in some ways.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Villa obviously had the better of the first half, and like I said, we were fortunate to go in at 0-0. But then typical Palace kick off second half, and within 2 minutes, 1-0 up. Mateta out on that right wing, doing what Jordan Ayew would normally be doing, turns Torres, sprints down the right wing, crosses the ball. Edouard's in the middle. I think it helped that Martinez slipped.
Yeah.
When he was moving out towards the ball, he slipped. It kind of put him off guard a little bit, and Edouard slotted the ball into the net. So fantastic move. 1-0 up. Edouard scores again. He's in a really rich vein of form, and another assist for Mateta.
Isn't he just? And there were a lot of Palace fans that didn't see the goal, of course, because they were still finishing their half-time pint of beer on the concourse, and it's mobbed down there at Villa Park. It really is a bit of a bum fight. So a lot of people missed the goal. Wild celebrations and limbs in the away, and nevertheless, for that 1-0 on 47 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, because on the TV, you could just about hear the Palace fans. But after that goal, that's all you could hear for the majority of the second half.
Yeah, until they scored, of course,
Yeah, and then the noise when they scored. Yeah, it must have been quite intimidating being in the ground, certainly for the players, the noise they were making. But yeah, we'll come on to that. So a couple of substitutions. So Villa made their substitutions early. 58th minute, they brought Bailey and Tielemans on. I mean, two pretty decent players, aren't they, to bring on the park?
Yeah.
And they both played their parts in getting Villa back into the game and eventually going on to win it. Diaby. So Diaby offloaded the ball to Watkins. This is 60th minute, and Decore flew into the box. It was a fantastic tackle, and then he smashed into Ward as well. But I think Villa were looking for a penalty, weren't they? Watkins again. Ref, it's a penalty. Just crazy.
Two of our players are laying flat out on the floor, and they're appealing for a penalty.
Yeah. Watkins was just sat there looking at Darren England, going, "It's got to be a pen in it, ref." It's like, So again, as Decore, fantastic tackle. It's in the box, so you could deem it risky, but but he's a fantastic midfield player. And then 65th minute, so Johnson, we go route one, long kick all the way down.
What a ball!
Eze heads the ball sort of over Cash, and he's just about to slide it under Martinez, but he came out of his goal. He did really well, actually. He came out very early, and he smothered the chance. So yeah, that was a shame because we did have quite a few chances to maybe put the game to bed, and we came to rue that towards the end of the game. But
just to come back and talk about that ball again from Johnson, because he meant it. It wasn't just a punt upfield, was it?
No.
He had the ball at his feet and he looked up and he picked Eze out. It was a marvellous pass. And, I think in the modern game, you need your goalkeeper to be able to do that. And Johnson's got the lot for me. He really has, And I can't help thinking we spent £20 million on a backup goalkeeper. We can come and talk about it more. We talked about it last week a little bit, but maybe with Jim and Lucie, we can talk about it a little bit more later on as well. But what a fantastic ball. And as you so quite rightly say, Ferg, it was very nearly a second goal.
Yeah. And then we have another chance, the 70th minute. Mateta, so he wins the corner on the right, and Eze takes it. He lifts it in, and Anderson's at the back post, unmarked, heads the ball back, and Wardy, he's got a free header about 6 yards out, and manages to put it about 4 or 5 yards wide, and he's just like, oh my god. So unfortunate for Wardy. He's in the right place, so you can't,
What was he doing there, though? Because I don't understand what he was doing there, really. I mean, it could have gone to any other player, couldn't it? And they probably would have scored.
Yeah, he's gone up for the corner, hasn't he? So, but if one of our strikers had been there, like a Mateta or an Edouard or somebody, then chances are would have been 2-0 up. But unfortunately, Wardy couldn't get it on target.
The only thing I can think of is he thought he was still defending that goal and he was trying to put it wide. So, but there we go. Yeah. Jim, is it? I mean, in the modern game, again, it shouldn't matter, should it? Who it is, if they get a chance like that, they should be hitting the target, shouldn't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, we always say typical centre-half or full-backs sort of shot at goal. But, I mean, you look at the attacking full-backs nowadays, they're as good as wingers. So when you get in that position, you should be hitting the target. I mean, it's not good, is it, when you miss it like that? But it happens, unfortunately. And he'll turn around and say, well, I'm only a full-back. What'd you expect?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Yeah, go on then, Ferg. Let's carry on. Let's get to this penalty in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay. So very quickly, Villa had another chance, 72nd minute. So Bailey breaks down the right wing, beats Mitchell and crosses it, and Johnson palms it out. And Douglas Luiz just heads the ball down, and Duran, who'd come on for Villa, smashes left foot shot. Great save by Johnson, down to his left. So that was a chance for Villa, and then 4 minutes later, 76th minute, they hit the post. Mark Hughes, Hughesy throws himself in front of Bailey's shot, and it rebounds to Watkins, and he bends an effort towards the top right-hand corner, hits the post, hits Johnson on the back of the head. Unfortunately for us, it goes out for a corner. But that led to Johnson being injured and spending 5 minutes lying on the floor. And Villa's manager was getting very, very irate, wasn't he, on the touchline about time wasting.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he was doing all this, get him off. He was obviously taking too much time. Yeah. I know, and Henderson was warming up. I think they were considering bringing him on.
Well, we said in the ground, we said, is he going to go off? We thought for a moment that he might have to, because he did look in a bit of a bad way.
They were putting some heavy.
He got a bit lucky, really, because there were early. I think it was last week. Pickford let one in, very similar to that, hit the post and hit the back of his head and went in the goal. Whereas this one hit the back of his head and went off for a corner. So again, close from Villa, very close. So at this stage we're still winning, but only just.
Yeah. And then 83rd minute, we have another chance where Doucouré just scoops the ball over the Villa defence to Eze, and he tries to lift it over Martinez. The lob. And Martinez is just close enough to get his hand to it, and then catches it as the ball comes back down as Mateta's coming in for the rebound. So you're thinking, 83rd minute, we're still 1-0 up. Things that were looking good, nicking that 1-0 win away from home. And then the 87th minute, and I can't really argue about this because it was a fantastic goal. You know, Deeney crosses the ball in, and Duran takes it on his chest. John Duran. He just controls it with his chest superbly on the volley, swivel and turn, lightning quick. Mitchell was in close proximity, but he couldn't do anything about it, and it was just too hard, too fast for Johnson. He
it was right down his throat almost, but it was the power, wasn't it? The power of it was such that he took it past him. No goalkeeper saves that.
No, fantastic goal. And you kind of think to yourself, okay, well, it's probably been coming. You know, Villa probably had the better of the chances in the second half. We had our own to put the game to bed, but all the time we're not scoring. You know, it's only one goal, so we're always at risk of. And I hate to say it because it is Palace. We capitulate. The last 5 minutes of every game, we just seem to go to sleep. We only played for 85 minutes. It's so frustrating.
It's tricky. Lucie, in the chat, I saw someone say earlier, I can't remember who, that we looked really tired at the end of the game. Did you pick up on that one?
Yeah, I think it was Dawn or Jones saying that towards the end of the game that sort of our players started to look tired and a bit wearied, perhaps, which kind of reminds me a little bit of the PVA days, sort of like early first season last year, which is sort of certainly not something that we want to be seeing, especially not off the back of an international break. I don't really understand that, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously a few of them have played some football and travelled a lot of miles, but I just wonder, psychologically, though, if you're on the back foot during a game, Jim, you know, and you're under pressure, because we were in the second half. When we come to the stats at the end, we'll see that they had 2/3 possession and we had a third. When you're under that much pressure, does it take more out of you, do you think, as a player?
Yeah, definitely, because you're chasing all the time. When you're in command and passing the ball, you don't even think of fitness. But when you're not in command and you're chasing the ball and moving about and not actually getting hold of it, it takes a lot out of you. Plus, it's a mental thing, and they've had 2 weeks, sort of a lot of them on international duty, travelling thousands of miles. So all adds up. I mean, but probably for most of the game, they were under the cosh probably a little bit. So yeah, they're probably going to get more tired than the team that's got all the possession.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jim. Thanks very much. So we come to this penalty then, Ferg, do we?
Yeah, so 90 plus 3, penalty to Villa. So Tielemans.
Because 9 minutes goes up, doesn't it? 9 minutes goes up. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
They're thinking 9 minutes, you know.
The frustrating thing is we made substitutions, didn't we? We brought Amada on in the 90th minute, and you're just thinking, why don't we just? I know the players were tired, but we need to keep that continuity. I think bringing substitutions on, if you're going to bring them on in the 70th minute, not in the 90th minute, because I think that just disrupts the flow of the game, but certainly for Palace, and it seemed to give Villa the impetus. They were already on top. And the fans were so loud with the equaliser. And I know he was probably trying to waste a bit of time with the substitutions, but it came back to bite us in the backside. I think it was 9 minutes. We ended up playing 16.
Yeah.
Obviously, because we're going to come on to the penalty now. So, Tielemans slid a ball through to Watkins and he's bearing down on goal. And I'm sure everybody in the chat and everybody that's watching seen the Richards tackle. I personally think he went in from the side. I think he touched the ball and then he scooped the ball in two goes. I don't think it was a penalty. But I think the way the world with football now is that any touch in the penalty area seems to be given as a penalty. If that was out on the pitch, that's not a penalty.
So here's the thing then. So this is last weekend against Wolves when it was 0-0. And we're in the box, and the Wolves player treads on Eze's foot. It's not given. So that's not true, is it, Ferg? You know, not any touch in the penalty area is given.
It's checking club badge, isn't it, Ian? It depends. It really depends who you're playing. I honestly believe that. And Villa being, a big team and probably quite intimidating for the referees, they always tend to side with the bigger clubs or the ones that.
Well, that's what it seems anyway. Lucie.
Okay, so we've got some fantastic comments. So I'm going to list them out, sort of, Ian, because there's lots of comments on this penalty. So bear with me, everybody. Okay, Rob Cranfield, Darren the Clown England should be strung up off a lamppost outside a Norwood Junction pub. Harsh, but I think I can tune into that feeling. Yep. Mark Callahan, fans know their football, and everybody could see that was a perfect tackle. Just ask Jim. Also, we have John Knox. Is Kevin Friend out? New Mark Clattenburg. Interesting. Also, Paul Bristow. Darren England looked disappointed that he had to give that offside. A bit further on. A bit earlier on. And also, let me just have a little look. So Mark Callahan as well. I think Darren England seemed to be saying to VAR, he got the ball. Would love to hear the conversation. He might well have turned over his decision, but VAR was chirping in his ear. He watched it from all different angles and could see it was a good tackle. So who influenced him to give the penalty? Monty 1964 says not a penalty. And let me just sort of make sure I've got a couple. The ref gave a penalty, VAR didn't, from Monty 1964.
Yep.
It's the inconsistency, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Jim, you've seen it on TV. Good tackle or not a good tackle?
Well, first impressions is it was a decent tackle. But it's like, how much contact are you allowed in the box without giving a penalty away? I mean, not every challenge in the box is going to be a penalty. I mean, but at the moment, it seems to be, you showed that one there with Eze. I mean, the guy stood on his foot and he's gone over and he don't give nothing. So inconsistency is the right word. And VAR, these idiots that sit in these boxes watching, none of them, and I know for a fact, none of them have ever played football in their life. Because to be a referee, you don't have time to play football. They don't understand the quickness, the way games are these days, and they drive you mad. I mean, you could say he leant against them, but that's not a penalty, is it?
No.
And then he's got his tackle in.
Sorry,
it's crazy.
We got the echo back. No. I just feel that anywhere else on the pitch, he doesn't give a free kick for that. I think he
wouldn't give anything. He wouldn't give anything.
That's what's annoying. I think, come back to VAR, you say idiots of VAR. Right, okay. I think VAR actually did its job yesterday. I think it did its job pretty well because, A, it ruled out the offside goal that would have been given if VAR hadn't been in place. So it ruled.
Yeah, but that's easy. You can see that without. You don't need a line to see that he was offside.
Well, I don't think so because I was in the ground and I called it off, but the linesman didn't flag, interestingly, on our side. So VAR have whispered in Darren England's ear. He's given the penalty in real time because in real time, I can understand him thinking he's fouled Watkins. But in real time, you can't see all the detail. So VAR have said, and we've had a look at this, Darren. You need to go and have a look at the screen, mate, because we think he's played the ball first. That's what they've said to him. They must have done because he went to look at the screen. If they'd said, Darren, you're right, mate, he definitely played the player, he wouldn't have looked at the screen. He would have just taken the penalty. Yeah? So they've told him to go and look at the screen. He looks at the screen. Let's get that picture back again, Nige. This picture I took yesterday in the ground. Now, I don't normally take pictures during games because I'm watching the game. But this was about 2 or 3 minutes into him looking at it. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can't see Darren England's head. It's behind the screen. And the guy in the high vis, and the linesman is behind the guy in the high vis, and he's pushing the players back. If you look at it on Match of the Day, or not Match of the Day, sorry, on Palace Player that I watched back, he's pushing the players back because they're trying to get close to him to see what he's thinking. And the best bit of footage, we can't see exactly what he said, but if you watch back the extended highlights on Palace Player, if you've got access to that, lasts for about 20 minutes, you can see him talking, pointing to the screen, talking. I think VAR, Rob Jones in VAR is saying, that's not a penalty for me. And Darren England is saying, oh, well, I've given it. And it's in front of the whole end, and I can't change my mind in front of the whole end in the 93rd minute. So it's a penalty. And I genuinely think he bottled it and decided to give it to him because it was where it was. If that's against Aston Villa and it's at Sellers Park, they might not have got it. If that's us and it's in front of the whole end, I don't think we get it either. But I think it's because of the situation in the game and the intimidation of the ground. I think he bottled it, and VAR probably told him not to give it, and he overruled them because he's got the right to do that, the referee on the pitch. Someone put in the chat, Luce, about, I think it was Teresa, about the encroachment. I think we've all agreed it wasn't a penalty, but the encroachment. There you go. The encroachment of the Villa player. And what does it say in the rules, Nigel? It says, there we go. It says that if an attacking player is encroaching into the penalty area, the penalty is retaken. And Wardy was trying to tell the referee this. The referee's looking at him, and he doesn't make him take it again. So, the rules are broken there.
He was looking along the line there, Ian. He's seen it, and the number 19 for Villa actually put his hands up because he knew what he'd done, and Darren England chose to just ignore it and walked away and gave the penalty.
Gave the goal. Yeah. I think clearly there's a lot of scrutiny here because of the situation with the first place and the kicks given. Then he's looking at the screen for ages and all the rest of it. But that kick should be retaken. I know if it's against you, you feel that's harsh, but nevertheless, they're the rules. It's there in black and white for all to see. Very, very tough one for all to take. The referee booked Joel Ward for protesting about this, apparently, Yasmin says. And Yasmin's going to join us very shortly as well on this show this evening, and you'll find out why a little bit later on. So, Fergus, do you want to just wrap this game up for us? 2-1 score, the penalty,
Yeah, so Douglas Luiz put the penalty away. And then 90 plus 11 minutes, we're pushing up, trying to get that equaliser. And we just get caught on the counter-attack. Tielemans down the line to Diaby. He takes it down to the byline and he cuts it back. And Bailey's there at the back post just to steer the ball in. Wardy was in the middle of the goal. He was running back from the left-hand side from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. I'm not quite sure what he was doing over there, but, he should have been there. Or someone should have been there, Mitchell. But the guy's just on his own at the back post, taps it in 3-1. I think it's a very, very unjust scoreline considering. So 3-1, another loss. I think we've only won one game under Darren England in his 7 or 8 games that he's refereed against us. He's given us a shed load of yellow cards as well, 21, I think, in 7 games. So, and he booked Eze and Hughes again yesterday. Booked Eze for simulating, but I didn't see that. I did see it. I didn't see it live, but I saw it back on the Palace player highlights I watched. And who was it? McGinn, wasn't it, that took him out? Yeah.
So McGinn takes him out and goes down, and Eze's on his knees, and he turns around. He just just holds his hand up like that, and the referee deems that as influencing to book the player that he was going to book anyway. And the new rules this season say that if you do that, you get a yellow card as well. And you could see the bemusement on his face when he got a yellow card. That was in the first half. Yeah.
I think when he was walking off at half time, he was talking to one of the Villa players and they were asking him what he got booked for. He's doing this.
A real panel says that's the rule. Yes, it is the rule, Paul. I get that. But it was it's not like he went right up to him in his face. He was still on the floor and he just sort of held his hand up like that, which is, I suppose, just a natural reaction. I don't know. He won't do it again in a hurry, will he? I suppose. But
I just think it's one of those days. He's probably the worst. I think he's the worst referee in the Premier League. I don't think
anyone on there will disagree with you this evening on that one, Fergus.
Playing against 12. So the match stats. So obviously Villa clearly had more possession, more shots. Shots on target 5 to our 3, corners 4 to 2. Villa committed more fouls than Palace.
Yeah,
which is interesting because we've always been called a physical side, haven't we? But there we are, 3-1. It's upsetting because you're winning the game for 40 minutes of the second half, and then it all falls apart.
Falling apart. Did it fall apart? I'm not sure our performance fell apart. I know we looked tired. We already covered that. But we just got on the wrong end of a really bad refereeing decision, I think. And if that referee then says, and he looks at it and says, actually, no, I made a mistake, it's not a penalty, and he changes his mind, then I think the game finishes out, play out at 1-1. I'd like to think that would be the case. Jim, is there any criticism levelled here at Paddy McCarthy and the coaching staff for not seeing the game out at 1-1 even, game management, let alone 1-0 up with 5 to go of normal time?
Well, yes and no. Yes, because we gave away the goals at the death, but it's easy in hindsight to say maybe could have put another 2 centre-halves on and sort of just gone for a point. But no, I mean, he did what he felt was the right thing. And it's the end of the game. When they get that second goal, that's a killer. I mean, the third goal don't make any difference. We're not going to come back from that, even though there's 5-6 minutes left. We've been under the caution. It's very unlikely. So, and if you try and get back from that, you end up giving another goal away. So the second goal killed the game right at the death. So.
Yeah, absolutely. The third goal, I agree with you, was totally irrelevant. Lucie, what have we got in the chat?
Okay, so just before we go on to that, I'm just going to do some hellos because we didn't do that earlier on, and we always appreciate everyone coming on and saying hello and joining us on a Sunday. So I'm going to just read these out. So we've got John Michael Ross, evening to you, and Mark Callahan and Lee Clark and Richard Greenwood, Tony P. Quinn, Real Panel, Lee Lockwood, Joan Wells, James Convery, Paul Bristow, Dawn Palace, hello to you, Paul Holden, Richard Thomas, Paul Grant, Mark Callahan, Nicholas Philpott, where are you, Dawn Palace, Rob Cranfield, Renshaw Barker, and also Lee Lockwood. If I've missed you, I'm sorry, put it back in and I'll put you up to the screen. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, Lucie, very much indeed. So I'm going to move on from the game. It was a tough one to take, but we haven't done well, as Fergus said right at the top of the show, in terms of how we get on at Villa Park. So, many of us went to Villa Park yesterday thinking, do you know what, if we get anything from this game, we'll be a bit lucky, especially with the 2 players that were missing, especially with Roy missing from the dugout. So, we move on to the next one. However, around the club, customary on this show is to talk about the other teams. And there's better news from elsewhere in Crystal Palace Football Club this weekend. The under-21s on Friday evening, they beat Middlesbrough 6-2 away from home in the Heritage Park Premier League Cup. Who knew there was a Heritage Park Premier League Cup? We all do now. And next up for them is the EFL Trophy, Wycombe Wanderers versus Crystal Palace under-21s. That's Tuesday next on 19th of September. So if you're anywhere near Adams Park in Wycombe, get along there on Tuesday night to support those boys. And then the under-18s and the under-18 Premier League on Saturday morning at Leicester City's training ground. They drew 1-1 with Leicester. And their next game is against Fulham next Saturday morning at Motspur Park. And then the women are Palace women. Last Sunday, during the international break weekend, they were at home to Durham and they won 9-1. There we go. Well done, ladies. Brilliant. 9-1. Poor old Durham women. It's a long way to go home to Durham, isn't it, when you get drubbed 9-1. And then today, we have Nigel with us, who's producing the show tonight. And Nigel, up in the northeast today, you've been along to the Eppleton Colliery Welfare Ground. What a great title. I love that. How did they get on, Nigel?
It was a gut-wrenching ones each draw. I say, as you can see there, we had a good turnout of Palace fans.
Brilliant. Look at that.
And I say they brought all the flags up with them. So we certainly made the home fans know we were there. There was around just shy of 600 people in the ground.
Okay.
And I think there was probably maybe about 20 Palace. But Elsie Hughes opened the scoring after 8 minutes for Palace. She had a header from the middle of the box and sort of drilled it down at the bottom left corner. And that was an assist by Annabelle Blanchard. We dominated the first half. And then the second half, Sunderland did come a little bit more back into it. Sort of one of our girls did take a bad knock around about the 65th minute, something like that. And she was down for about 5 minutes, and we were wondering, sort of how bad she was. And the gentleman I was actually sitting next to, standing, he was the husband of the Sunderland physiotherapist. So obviously he knew sort of what happens and things like that. And he says, "Oh, that is bad." I say after about 5 minutes, she did finally get up and sort of continue. Well, she was that fit. Later on, she took one player clean out and got a yellow card later for rather ferocious tackle, I think I could put it. But then, just as the referee was a bit like yesterday, putting up 9 minutes extra time, Brianna Westrup came in from a set piece for Sunderland. And I say again, from a very close range, another header right into the bottom of the corner. We were talking to the girls at the end of the match, and sort of they said, even though it was a draw, it felt like a loss to them.
Yeah, often the way if you're in front and you concede the lead, that's often the way, isn't it? I think.
But the interesting point we've got from the last week is the combined score for the under-21s and the women's team in the last 8 days is Crystal Palace 16, North East combined teams 4.
Loving your spin on that, Nige. Loving your spin on that.
Which is quite a good sort of scoreline for the Palace, especially the Exiles up here.
Brilliant. Well done for getting along today, Nigel, and thanks for that match report. It's not often we have an eyewitness match report. On the day of the game, live on the show. You can't get that on any other Crystal Palace podcast. You really cannot. So, Nige, thanks very much. Thanks for all you're doing in the background as well, mate. Hopefully, you've got another guest waiting.
Yasmin is just about to come back in, so I'll say goodbye to you all.
Okay, that's great. So just before we get Yaz on, Crystal Palace Women's, their next game is the Women's Championship. It's next Saturday, the same day as the men play. They're at home to Sheffield United, 2:00 at the VBS Community Stadium. Most of us, I guess, will be in Sellers Park, including this young lady. I say young, how am I kind to you? Welcome, Yasmin Broom. How are you?
All right, thank you. Bit tired.
Bit tired, yeah, because it took us 6 hours to get home from Villa Park yesterday, didn't it? Yaz and I travelled to away games together, and we were talking on the way back yesterday from the game, travelling back, and Yaz is put herself forward for the first time to do the Marathon March on Saturday the 14th of October, and I suggested come on the show and talk about it. So here you are. So welcome. First of all, then, Yaz, there's your Just Giving page, and we'll have your Just Giving link going across the bottom of the screen very shortly. Before I say anything else, we've got here that you've got 152% of your target. Just ignore that, everybody. The club give everyone a £300 target, but Yaz wants to smash that and do it about 4 or 5 times. So what we'd love you to do tonight, if you've got a few spare pennies when you've heard from Yaz, is to donate to her Just Giving. So Yasmin, first of all, let's talk about why you've decided to do this mad thing and walk 26 odd miles in a single day.
Well, one of my friends, he does it every year, and he always posts loads of pictures, and it looks really good. But I just didn't feel that I'd be able to do it because I'm not really a sporty person or anything like that. But when we went to Leicester, not last season, the one before, we were with Chris Grierson, and I thought I'd start asking him what you needed to be able to do and stuff. And actually, he was really encouraging about it. I was a bit frightened because I can't walk really fast, so I wouldn't be going off for first place or anything. But he said that lots of people, there's some, like he said, Brighty goes off really quickly. But he said quite a lot of people don't, so I wouldn't be last or anything like that. So I just thought maybe I would. And then when I saw it come up, I just did it straight away without really thinking about what it entailed.
Fair enough. Okay, so we can blame Chris Grierson on the way to Leicester. I remember that conversation, actually, because I was with you, I think, but I wasn't stupid enough to put myself forward. So well done, you. So tell me, how's the training going?
It's going okay. I've done a couple of walks from where I live in Sutton into central London. and that's about 14 miles all told when I walk back from the station. And I've also been going to the gym 3 times a week to work on like my leg strength and all of that. So I think it's okay, but I'm not underestimating that it's going to be a massive challenge for me because I have asthma and I have fibromyalgia as well. But I think I can do it with the adrenaline on the day.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure the adrenaline will carry you through. So for those of us that don't know, and anyone watching the show that doesn't know, the money's going to the Palace for Life Foundation. Tell us a little bit about what that work does. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, so they do a lot of work in the local community, which I think we would all realise some of the people really need our help. So it does things like disability sport, which is something really close to my heart, and also to get girls into sport and particularly football. It helps young people to find jobs. And I know as a parent, my daughter was very, very sporty, and it cost an absolute fortune to keep her in all of the clubs. And if you don't have that, it's not really fair on the children that they have to miss out. So I think it's really important to give to this cause if you can.
Absolutely. Thank you, Yaz. So our friend Real Panel says we can walk up and down the canal route to Old Trafford a few times before the cup game. So there's an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah.
There we go. That's made me laugh a lot. Jim, have you ever thought of doing this? Have you ever done the marathon march?
I think about it every week. I've never done it. But Yasmin, you've got no problem coming last because there's far too many pubs en route. And all the lads will be in and out of them all day long. So I'm sure you'll be fine.
Is that right? Is that right? That's good. Lucie, anything in the chat that wants to encourage Yasmin?
Oh, there's lots of support for you, Yasmin. So we've got Paul Holden. Good luck, Yasmin. We've also got Paul saying, well done, Yasmin. Legend. Well done, Yasmin, from Rob. Well done, Yaz, from Dawn. Joan, good luck, Yaz. Stephen Isles, hi. Just, good luck. There's so much support there. And I hope you come back on the show afterwards.
Yeah,
I will do. Thanks everyone for your support. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Yasmin. And we're going to keep that fundraising link going, and we're going to post it on our page as well. So if anyone wants to sponsor you, they can just jump on, click a few links. If you're working, tick the gift aid box as well, and we can raise as much money as we can for the Palace for Life Foundation. So Yasmin, thank you so much for joining us. And as Lucie said, you must come back on afterwards and let us know how you get on. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Yaz. Thanks for joining us. Brilliant.
Good luck.
Okay. Good luck to Yasmin. It's really good to have her with us tonight and to encourage her in that. I don't think I could do it. I'm pretty sure I couldn't walk that far in a single day. So it's quite something. Good luck to her. So a quick look at the loan watch before we move on to one or two other things before we wrap up this evening. So Malachi Boateng played 90-plus minutes for Dundee against Celtic. They lost 3-0. Luke Plunge is on loan at Carlisle, and he scored on 19 minutes in a 1-1 draw and then was taken off on the 64th minute. Killian Phillips, your mate Fergus, he only had a few minutes at the end of the game for Wickham as a sub. They beat Blackpool 2-0. Owen Goodman in goal, of course, played the full 90-plus minutes for Colchester in a 1-1 draw with Mansfield. And Kofi Balmer played 75 minutes for Port Vale in a 1-0 win against Northampton Town. So there's a quick roundup of the other players at Crystal Palace Football Club out on loan this season. So we move on to, I hope I haven't forgotten anything vital, Nigel. We move on to next week, and we have Fulham at home at Selhurst Park. Hopefully we can get back to winning ways. We're going to get predictions in a minute. But before we do that, I just want to touch on something that's going to happen next Saturday during the game. So on the 9th of June, I've never met this guy before, but on the 9th of June this year, very sadly, a young Palace lad called Josh Bashford, he was only 33, him and his wife, get this is terribly sad, they were both murdered in their home in Newhaven in Sussex. leaving behind 4 young children. Now, John was a lifelong Crystal Palace fan and attended many games where he could. The Palace have very kindly donated tickets for Josh's family for next weekend for the home match against Fulham, and they're going to start a minute's applause on the 33rd minute in memory of Josh. So if you're at the game next Saturday, please do join in and applaud on 33 minutes. And here, the Red and Blue Review, of course, we send our condolences again to the family and friends. A terrible, terrible tragedy. And, we'll remember him next Saturday afternoon. So that's just a bit of a somber note to talk about next weekend. So let's just go on and talk about the game itself next weekend. Hopefully we can get back to winning ways. So predictions we're going to look at. Put your predictions in the chat. Jim, I'm going to come to you first of all. Are you working next weekend? Are you in the lounge next weekend?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Half 5 kickoff, isn't it? The 5:30 kickoff?
No, we're 3 o'clock next weekend. You're thinking of Nottingham Forest is the one after that.
Am I? I'm either thinking of something that's just gone past. 3 o'clock, well, that's good.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock.
I
So
hate them
don't be late, Jim. Don't be late.
I would have been if you hadn't mentioned it. 2-0.
2-0 to the Palace against Fulham. Okay.
Yes.
Fergus, what about you, my friend?
2-1.
2-1, of course. Fergus says 2-1. Fergus 2-1 Tid, I'm going to call you from now on. Lucie, what have we got in the chat for next weekend?
All right, I think it'll be 2-0 as well, but let me have a look at some of the predictions that have come in. So we have got John Knox watching on YouTube, 3-1. Paul McNamara Obi at 4-2. Wowzers. Rob Cranfield 2-1. Richard Thomas 3-1 Palace. Get in. Tim Richards 3-1. Ian Appleby 2-1. Mark says a win against Fulham. Doesn't want to nail his hat on a score there. Lee Lockwood 2-1. Us. Teresa 2-1. I think that's us as well. Yeah, there we go. My screen froze. David Hart 2-1. Paul Holden 2-1. Joan 1-all. George Uwagwu 2-all. Tony 3-2. And Lucie returns. Oh, is that on the cards? Tony Quinn 3-2. David Hart 2-1. Real Panel 1-0. Yasmin Broom 2-1. Tim to Fulham. Aaron 2-0 to Palace.
Yeah, Azza. Good to see Azza up at Villa Park yesterday with young Leo again. And I'll go 2-0 as well. So before we finish then, I just want to talk about team selection for next weekend then. Let's assume Mark Gahey's back and Jefferson Lerma's back. How are we going to accommodate Chris Richards in the team? Because we said at the top of the show that we thought that Chris Richards had a great game yesterday, and I wouldn't disagree with that at all. He played really, really well. I can't see Roy wanting to switch to a back three and change the formation. I don't think we've got the wing backs for a start to do that, although it's an idea going forward, but not necessarily for next weekend. What would you do, Ferg, first of all? Would you try and fit Chris Richards into the team, and if so, for whom?
If he's not going to play 3 at the back, I think he'd struggle. I mean, the only position, I think for the USA, he played left centre-back in the first game and then right centre-back in the second one. So potentially you could play him at right back and maybe replace Joel Ward. He didn't have a great game yesterday. So that's probably the only way I could see Richards getting in if Mark Guy's fit.
Yeah, and Paul McNamara agrees with you there. Jim, would you want to see Richards in the side?
Yeah, probably would do. I mean, anytime I've seen him, I thought he'd done a really good job. He looks strong. He looks really quick. He looks powerful in the air. I understand when we signed him, he could play right across the back four. So why not give him a game at right back? I mean, Joel Ward does brilliant, but he can be a weakness at times. He's obviously getting on a little bit, and he hasn't got the pace that he used to have. I don't think he ever had pace, actually. But I don't think Roy will change it, actually. I think Roy will stick to his usual back four. But I would like to see Richards. I mean, he's not going to let you down, is he? He's not going to do it any worse. But to be fair, Joel Ward hasn't really let us down last season at all, even this year. I mean, he didn't have a great game yesterday, and the best pass of the game was his pass back. But that don't mean say he should be left out of the team. So I think Roy will keep the normal back four.
Yeah. I think you might be right, but it would be good to see him start if we can accommodate him. Lucie, what are your thoughts?
We've had a couple of comments sort of earlier, and just sort of whilst Jim's mentioned Roy, do we think that Roy will make a reappearance this coming weekend? Is he going to be sort of out of the sick bay? Is there any news on him at all? Any sort of inclination?
Paddy McCarthy said in his post-match press interview that he was making progress and he was getting better. So I think we'll see him next weekend. Yeah, I don't think there's anything sinister or anything too significant at all. I hope not anyway. Good. Okay. All right. So that's what we've got coming up. We've got Fulham next weekend, of course. Next Saturday at Selhurst. There you go, Jim. 1,500 hours just to confirm for you. And then we've got a double header against Manchester United. We go there in the League Cup third round on the Tuesday night. That is live on Sky. Don't let that put you off going. Get up there and support the boys if you can. And then we play them again at Old Trafford, 3:00 on Saturday, the 30th of September. Actually, my wife's going to that game. It'll be the first time she's been to a game for about 4 years, so that'll be interesting. And then this is your 5:30 kickoff, Jim. We're home to Nottingham Forest on the 7th of October. Then we go to Newcastle after the next international break at 3:00. And then we play Spurs at home on a Friday night in front of the Sky TV cameras on the 27th of October. So it's your up-and-coming Crystal Palace games. The only other thing that we haven't really had a chance to talk about tonight, which I've just seen in my notes here, that Odsonne Edouard and Jean-Philippe Mateta, could they start in the same team? That's a thing that I'd like us just to finish on if I can. So just a very quick word on this. Ferg, first of all, would you want to see them start together?
If Ayu's still out injured, then yeah, I think there's an opportunity there.
Yep, good. Jim?
Yeah, I suppose if Ayew and Olise are unavailable, why not? They seem to be getting a little partnership going when they do play together, and Edward's scoring goals, so yeah, why not?
Indeed. And Lucie, what do we think in the chat? Is there anything there significant about this?
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of support. Dawn says Roy said he wouldn't rule it out. Teresa, I would love to see them start together. An awful lot of support actually for that happening. And just before I hand back to you, Ian, a shout out to the New York Eagles as well. Kim, Dave, Doug, and Kevin. Back to you, Ian.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Thanks everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. We'll be back again next Sunday, and I'm pretty sure Nick Philpott will be back in the hot seat for Sunday, the 24th of September, after we play Fulham at home. So it's thanks very much to the guys for joining me, Lucie, Jim and Fergus, and Yasmin, of course, and Nigel in the background. Very good evening, everyone. Have a great week.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Good night.